Matt Woxler here from Wheels Through Time Museum. This week, we got a big week for you on Drive for History. We're right here in our Class C racing exhibit, American Racer, highlighting some of the best and most storied dirt track racing machines ever to make laps. Now, Class C racing started about 1933, 1934. It was really kind of a departure from standard racing of the day. It was 19-teens, 20s, and even the early 30s. The AMA focused on professional racing. So factory-employed riders, extremely limited production numbers of machines. When Class C entered the game, and you got to imagine, Great Depression, they're doing anything they can to get more motorcycle sales. So in order to increase the sales, they actually created Class C racing. And Class C, we kind of call it everyman's racing, based on production motorcycles, ride to track racing. So that early on, Class C racing were pretty simple. The machines had to be factory produced machines, so not limited production, one of tens, one of fives, one-offs. These were actually production models that the racers themselves would strip down and make into racing machines. So ride track, strip it down, make your laps there. You actually had to own the machine also. The bikes had to be registered in the racer's name. So here at the museum, there's over 50 Class C racing machines, really from the birth of Class C, 1933-4, all the way in through the 1960s. The machine we're going to be running for you today is one of the most storied and historic flat track racing machines, period. This is commonly known as the Duck Bike or the Blue Goose, raced by the one and only Carrol Resweber. Carrol Resweber was four-time Grand National Dirt Track champion from 1958 to 61. He was virtually unbeatable. In 1962, he actually went down with a career-ending leg injury and never raced again. So right here at the museum, Resweber's entire national championship fleet, his dirt track racers, his mile bikes, half-mile bikes, Watkins Glen machines, Daytona machines, they're all right here at the museum for you guys to see. We're going to be running the best one of them today. So right over here, guys, Resweber's very first factory-sponsored machine. Now, Resweber started racing, I believe, 1956, 57, and within just 2 short years, he had moved from Texas to Milwaukee to be closer to the racing hotbed. Teamed up with Ralph Burnt there. Ralph Burnt is really, you guys may have heard me talk about Ralph before. Ralph was one of the premier tuners and one of the really foremost minds when it came to the Harley Davidson KR and flathead horsepower. I mean, the guy absolutely produced engines that were unbeatable. Resweber's machines, as you can imagine, between the rider and the tuner, unbeatable combination. So this machine here is actually, the conservation of this machine was finished about 6 or 7 years ago. Now, the Resweber collection has been here at Wheels Through Time, I believe, about 30 years. Dale actually uncovered the pile. He was at a swap meet in Davenport, Iowa, been chatting with an old racer friend of his and actually set up a date to go visit this old tuner's garage. As it would be Ralph Burnt's garage. He met up with Burnt's daughters at the time, the 2 daughters, and actually purchased the entire inventory of racing machines, parts, memorabilia right there out of Ralph's garage. So this machine sat and really waited its turn. As you can imagine, my dad, being the racing enthusiast that he is, got right to work on several of the machines. The Duck Bike here, 1952 KR, this bike has been, I won't use the word restored, but the conservation has been completed on this bike for over 25 years. The one over this way, his 53, Carrol Resweber's first factory-sponsored bike, has just, again, been about 6 or 8 years ago. Some incredible photos of this bike. You've actually got Resweber with his 68N number plate. That's from 1957. Here he is, shortly after moving to Milwaukee. You got Resweber, Dick O'Brien, and John Harley in a staged photograph. And really, they knew that Resweber was the future of Harley Davidson's racing programs. Now, the showcases, the shelves, the workbenches are all filled with genuine racing history right out of Ralph Burnt's garage. And again, Ralph was one of the premier minds when it came to making power. Just unbeatable combination. Now, Resweber a 58 to 61 national champion. He was unbeatable on the half miles, unbeatable on the miles, won road races, actually never captured a Daytona race. And Daytona 200, he was racing on the beach, came close a few times, broke a few times, but never quite made it into the winner's circle right there at Daytona. But so what you guys are looking at, and as you grace up top there and you see a lot of these racing posters, almost every one of these machines on each of these racing posters is right here at Wheels Through Time. Pretty unbelievable stuff. And when it comes to flat track, Daytona, and road racing, TT racing history, there's really no collection right here, or like right here at Wheels Through Time. So again, handlebars, stamped aluminum gas tanks, tank pads, all the original number plates. Check this out. This is actually Ralph Burnt's original cam grinder. This cam grinder right here, and as primitive as it looks, is ground every set of cams in every one of Resweber's bikes. This here was a big part of what made Resweber so fast and made him unbeatable. Again, Ralph Burnt's racing flow bench right here. Every single cylinder on every one of those bikes behind us, guys, was flowed right here on the bench. You can even see his plexiglass combustion chamber, and what this allowed them to do was change the shape and modify the top of the, or the bottom of the head. So this mirrors right down here. And by changing the location of the shelf, they could get the burn they desired on top of the piston. So again, makes big difference when it comes to producing power. All these little internal changes that when you're watching that bike go 120 miles an hour down the backstretch, you don't see this stuff. It's not until you get into the engine that you can actually see what's been done. So another one of Resweber's machines, this is his Daytona machine. Now, Resweber was a racer at a time right when they went from racing on the beach, they went right to racing at Daytona Speedway. The photo you're looking at right now is Carrol at the first year of racing Speedway in 1961. Right there in the cowboy hat, that's Ralph Burnt with the glasses on, the kind of the brains behind the operation. This bike is in completely as raced condition, and it runs as well as the day that it got off the track. So another one of my favorites is Resweber's Laconia bike. The thing is still set up just as he had it set up on his last race. So incredible work. And again, they don't make motors like this anymore. Burnt was among the very, very best when it came to produce and power out of Harley Davidson KR engines. So, and again, guys, what you're looking at here, the original number plates, the original parts, tank pads, oil tanks, magazines. Resweber had to be on more magazine covers in this day than just about anybody I can think of. One of the really neat photos here at the museum is this photo, factory photograph. It's a staged photograph right there in the studio. There's Resweber on the duck bike, the 52 KR that we're going to be starting up today. It's when he still had the number 12 number plate. So this photo would be used the following year on the front of the Harley Davidson competition catalog. So first at the finish line, Harley Davidson 1962, and inside the catalog here, they've got all of the KR models and potentially even the XLR model. Yeah, right there on the back page. So pretty incredible stuff. Number one in the nation, Harley Davidson. Resweber's the guy that put him there. Here's another great photo of Resweber. And guys, there's just far too much here to cover in one video. Resweber with famed racer Dick Clanforth, and of course Joe Leonard. Joe Leonard was unbeatable through much of the 1950s until Resweber came along. When you talk to a lot of the flat track greats still today, they say that Carrol was one of the very few guys to be able to run wide open all the way around the track with his feet up. So must have been something really amazing to see. Now the noise that these bikes make, there's absolutely nothing like it. We're going to be firing this one up here just momentarily, and the way that we're cranking this one, again, Harley Davidson KR, no kicker here on this machine. A lot of the KRs do have kickers, purpose-built motorcycle though. So this machine, they did whatever they could to lighten it up in any way that we could. So a lot of the equipment that would be on a standard off the assembly line Harley Davidson KR has been stripped. The kicker cover, the whole kicker shaft, that boss has been shaved off the rear of the engine. You notice they've got the cutout primary covers here. This was done two reasons. One, to save weight. It's aluminum, so it's not much weight. But two, should you ever shed a chain When this is all covered and enclosed, like on the factory production bikes, the chain's got nowhere to go, so it'd grenade a cam cover and a sprocket cover quite easily. By shaving this away, should that chain break, it just gets chewed up and spit out the front. Now, this machine lightened up in every way that you can imagine. The frame's been shaved and lightened, every casting is whittled down. You can see they've drilled holes here in the rear axle plate, 100 and something holes in the sprocket, pretty incredible stuff. The pipes are ultra lightweight, thin wall, and what they've done here actually on the cylinders is that KR's has a notoriously large exhaust port, and they've shaved all that down. So all to gain a couple ounces. Each exhaust port, you know, you get a few ounces shaved off each port. You get a few ounces shaved off the sprocket covers and the sprockets and the rear axle. There's 16 ways to remove a pound off your race bike, and that's to find 16 ounces. So tack drive right here out of the what's normally a magneto drive or a timer on the standard K models. Big 21-inch on the front, so the 21-inch tires. A lot of racers on the mile, you like to use the 21s. Less contact. On top of that, we were just talking, it gave the racers a little bit more rake, so longer track, slow that steering down a little bit. So we're gonna get this thing fired right up. We're going to use my dad's 1936 Harley Davidson UX flathead. Chris is going to jump on this thing, fire it up. We got a little heat in that engine, so it should crank right up. This one right here, we've run it once today, but it's cooled off, so this will be a cold start. And we're going to make some noise here right now, guys, so let's do it. Here we go. All right. Good? Make sure we're in gear. Yeah, I'm in gear. Yeah, whenever you're ready, Chris. There you guys have it. What a machine. The one, the only duck bike, the Blue Goose, Carrol Resweber's 4-time Grand National Dirt Track champion. Proud to run it for you guys here on the Drive for History. Make sure you're tuning in all this week. We're going to be firing up more rare 100, 120 mile an hour racing machines right here in our Class C exhibit. If you guys are enjoying what you see, make sure you check out wheelsthroughtime.com, driveforhistory.com. Remember, we're doing this for you guys. Make sure you help us out, help us fuel the museum that runs, and keep us preserving history for generations to come, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.